Hello?
Yeah, hi. Would you like to join our company? We'll pay you nothing.
Just moved in. How are you doing today?
Start now? Okay. Okay, yeah, sure.
Think of it as an internship.
Oh, hi. Hey, hi, yeah. Would you like to join our company? We'll pay you absolutely nothing.
Have you ever wanted to start your own fast food chain selling burgers and pizza to those hungry Americans? Well, in Food Chain Magnate, a complex game by Splotter Games, you can do just that. In Food Chain Magnate, or FCM for short, you start out as a single CEO and build your fast food empire, hiring and trading staff, and trying to get the most cash as possible on a variable board. Okay, let's go back in time to a 20th century America.
Two number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese.
So here's FCM in a nutshell. You start out as a lone CEO trying to get the most cash to win the game. To do that, your fast food company is going to be marketing, producing, and selling all sorts of products to the houses on the map. Every turn, you'll be hiring people from this guide found in your restaurant's menu, player aid, and then training your employees to the next tier if you can. Then you can activate your employees' abilities, like beginning marketing, cooking, grabbing drinks, and even somehow forcing people to move into town. Okay, now it's dinner time. People of this American town only eat what they're told. They just follow the directions of any marketing campaign that influences their house. They're lazy, so they just go towards whatever house is closest and cheapest. And that's it. That's a really simple explanation of the game. You repeat hiring, using your employees, and then selling to the houses until the bank runs out of money for the second time. When that happens, the game ends, and whoever has the most money is the best food chain magnate of this now terribly unhealthy American neighborhood. So here are the pros of Food Chain Magnate, and wow, we found a lot of them. First, the components are definitely not junk. All of the employees are clearly defined with art that really has that mid-20th century American aesthetic. Okay, it's unapologetically a little misogynistic, which is irritating, but the art really does have that old American diner vibe. The quality of the hundreds of cards you get are amazing, feeling super dense and will last the test of time. And the wooden pieces for food are as proportionally chunky and stack really well when needed. Oh, and the game doesn't just give you player aids, they give you restaurant menus in the form of player aids. Oh my god, available in German and English. But these are awesome because they explain almost everything about the game, including the corporate structure and milestones. Wait, milestones? What are those? Well, these are essentially permanent technologies for your corporation that are unlocked once you fulfill something, like being the first to market burgers. So you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of milestones. And yeah, that's what ties into the grand amount of varied strategy that just emerges. Like, besides the milestones, let's look into the different combinations you can get in hiring alone. You're thinking about who and how many people you want to hire each turn, all while considering your combined salary costs. Oh, do you want to reduce your salary payout? Okay, well, what about hiring the HR director or the recruiting manager? There's a cool mechanic where you can't even train people at work. So you always need to be mindful about giving them a vacation if you want them to ever get better at their job. Let's point out a couple more awesome abilities that you'll find in this stack of employees. How about price manipulation? There's a luxury manager that can make your stuff god-awful pricey if you want to extort your customers, or the discount manager to undercut other restaurants' prices like the scummy son of a gun you are. What about building on the board? Yep, you can start to build new restaurants and even immediately teleport your existing restaurants. Oh, and you can improve people's houses to make them pay you even more money. Or you can just build more houses in the town to get even more customers. And it's a restaurant game, so of course you have waitresses to hire. Now, these are really cool too because they give you passive income every turn even if you don't sell anything. Yeah, that doesn't really make much sense thematically, but hey, free money. And here we have to talk about the marketeers. Now, marketeers make a mechanic called marketing, which is awesome. Your employees are literally creating demand in the houses for your products. And there's so many different shapes and sizes of marketing tiles that's combined with 4 different marketing methodologies. You can market with an airplane banner to a thick row of houses, or you could just plant a radio station that blasts your marketing to 9 tiles. And the priority of marketing matters a lot in this game. So houses can quickly get capped in demand as the game progresses, since faster, more elite marketing dominates late game. Oh, and your employees' marketing campaigns will end eventually, meaning that you can constantly pivot to new strategies. Why may you need to pivot? Well, see, when you market, those darn customers won't be loyal to your restaurant's products. They'll eat anyone's. So if you're not careful, you could just end up marketing products and your corporate enemies could be selling to your targeted houses and getting all the profits. We have to stress again that with all these crazy abilities mixed in with these 18 milestones, there's so many options. And after the first couple of turns, you'll be constantly using your employees and milestones to adapt to your evolving opponent's abilities from their employees and milestones. And you're allowed to adapt really well in FCM because of how the perfect information feels really fair. You can almost always see what other people are doing as you constantly try to outwit each other. And the milestone cards count for everyone achieving that goal in a round. So it never feels unfair that someone has a cool ability and you don't, especially during early game when you don't have much control over turn order. If you really want a cool tech in this game, you can probably find a way to get it. The only unpredictability is when the bank breaks for the first time, causing you to add in the rest of the money. And that's where even more skill comes in. See, throughout the first part of the game, you'll have to guess how long the game will be, since the second bank is all based off of everyone's secret reserve cards selected before you even start the game. So you can look at how other people are playing, and then you can try to balance selling with marketing to make sure you synchronize your business strategy with the size of the bank. Another awesome thing we noticed about gameplay, the progression feels perfectly appropriate given the corporate theme. Everyone starts out as a lone CEO in the beginning, slowly building up their management and beginning small marketing campaigns. Then, the game will start to explode a couple of rounds later, as people pay for better employees that can do stuff like cooking 8 burgers instead of 1. The fact that there'll be more and even stronger marketing campaigns in play means that customers are going to be spending more and more money. In fact, there's so much profit to be made late game that stragglers can actually just win on the last turn if they can fulfill insane demand. As the market starts to saturate in the game and all the companies have tons of goods to sell, the price slashing begins in a way that feels thematic. And the game doesn't always have to devolve into price slashing either. You can place new houses or increase marketing in a way so only you can fulfill demand, or just pivot to new products to keep margins high. So it's up to the players whether or not the progression will slow with price slashing. Onto replayability, and this game has a lot of it. The milestone mechanic allows you to discover different strategies since they all give you permanent techs. So in one game, you have the refrigerator so you don't have to throw away food, or in another game, you can have a permanent discount on salaries. Besides the milestones, every game will be different with the variable board. There's really no shortage of how many times you can play this game and identify a new milestone synergy with a new orientation of map. So Food Chain Magnate is clearly really thematic, and this makes it even funnier when you try to imagine what's going on in the game. It feels realistic in some aspects, as players are creating demand that is satiated as you hire cooks and cart operators to produce. You're managing your company's cash flow as you pay salaries, and engaging in a price war with the 2 restaurants down the street. So that all seems realistic and sensible. But then wait, suddenly one game, you're yelling at your errand boys to grab you some beer, because your marketing trainee just erected a billboard telling everyone that being an alcoholic is cool. What the heck? That guy just hired a regional manager and then just teleported his restaurant next door. Back at corporate, your management trainee children all report to your CEO. But then, under your trainees are your gurus, HR directors, Zeppelin pilots, chefs, and your brand manager. Actually, most employees in this 20th century company are unpaid interns apparently. Well, that's great for your company and you never have to train them, so you never need to pay them. This game is just littered with tons of flavor to run your fantasy fast food corporation, making it so easy to imagine recruiting girls calling people to join your company, and all the more satisfying when you make tons of cash in a round. Okay, now onto some logistics. Right out of the box, the components themselves have good clarity of information. The rulebook is organized cleanly through bold text and is written straight to the point. The board itself has that drab, old cartoony style that is actually color-coded very well with the houses, drinks, and cards. For the employee cards, they're grouped by color as well. Management cards are all a black color, the marketeers are all blue, and food production is all green. To tell if an employee needs to be paid, just check for the cash symbol. The products themselves are 5 different colors which also pop on the board. Okay, let's wrap up with player count. They did a good job of scaling setup for 2 to 5 players. There's the different size maps and taking out certain copies of employees and tiles and smaller player counts. We do have to point out though that at 5 players you have to be okay with a lot of downtime, and at 2 players you'll be missing out on a lot of the interesting multiplayer interactions. Okay, so now after that heap of pros, let's get to the cons. To start off, this game, Food Chain Magnate, is the definition of terrible space management. The game just doesn't sit on a table well at all. You need a lot of space to play this game. The milestones and employee reserve already take up a lot of space to start, and while playing, you'll quickly run out of space for everyone's growing management tree. So for reference, we have this 3x5 Duchess gaming table that can barely just squeeze in TI4. But this table struggles with Food Chain Magnate. Like, what? So while playing, we had to use additional side tables for all the cards. Why is this such a big deal for gameplay? Well, it's because you'll lose clarity while playing, since if everyone's employees and milestones, which are key parts you need to play around, are hard to see, that's really going to hurt the flow of gameplay. To fix this, a center game board that shows which milestones are fulfilled and by who is a good start. What we ended up doing is creating this accordion for the reserve cards to go inside. This does take a while to make though, especially to label. The next headache with this game is that it doesn't come with any sort of insert for a game with so many pieces. Now, you need a sort of system to organize this game, since the milestones and employees already take a while to set up. So unless you want a foam core like we did, be prepared to spend money on a third-party insert. Now for the next con, which is amusing because the rest of the components are such good quality, is the paper money! Yes, it's like Monopoly money, what the? Yep, this is the paper money we all know. It's terrible, it folds, and it flies across the table. To fix this, we've heard of people just using poker chips instead. The designers could have also just put in a score pad if they wanted to save money and space. Okay, let's get to scoring now. Now onto the scoring. First, the recommender score, which is how we try to evaluate the game as objectively as possible by weighing the pros and cons. Then we're going to give you our personal scores, which is just how me and Daniel feel about the game. Food Chain Magnate is going to be an 8 out of 10 from us. It's overall a great game. There's such an amazing fast food and corporation theme here that we wished more games tackled. You're holding cute menus to read about working 9 to 5, and what food to order, who to hire next round. There's not really any other game out there with this clever management structure and marketing system, so combine that with the permanent milestones, employee training diversity, and amazing replayability, and we have ourselves a heavy classic. It's a fantastic game mechanically for the competitive fast food chain experience it's trying to be. But it doesn't do a good job of being a board game. See, you'll have to do at least some type of modding to make it enjoyable, including replacing the paper money, creating an accordion to fit the reserve cards, and buying the milestone dry erase boards sold on BGG. Currently, the milestones are so hard to track that it may lend into thinking that that mechanic is bloated. We actually got a request on this. But in actuality, they're all achieved in very simple ways and tend to mirror each other, so after a couple playthroughs, you'll be comfortable about what they do. So Splotter's intention was to have players be able to calculate everything in the game, from achieved milestones, what money is left in the bank, and what employees people have. But this is really tricky with the current setup of components that don't all fit on the table. If you're okay with online play, check out Board Game Core. It automates all the bookkeeping and it's free as well. Now, Food Chain is a really heavy game that requires a lot of thought, and there's so much to take in from component sprawling overload that concentrated players can just keep thinking and grind the game to a halt. So beware of extreme analysis paralysis, especially at higher player counts. What could also make the game take longer than anticipated is the variable time length, where the game could take 2 hours to 4.5 hours. If you want the game to end quicker, you could do a cartel house rule where you all agree on making a smaller second bank, but that would ruin the fun and skill of predicting how long the other players wanted your game to take. Food Chain is also the definition of a punishing experience, so I guess you're probably getting exactly what you signed up for. The demand fulfiller will always take all the cash when selling to each house. As others try to catch up, the current leader can have an insane money buffer of $100 or so, which in some games is a large fraction of all the money and they've basically won. You see, Food Chain can actually have a runaway loser thing going on. There's no catch-up mechanics, and the weaker players can't ally in any meaningful way in the interconnected map, because you can't really tear down the winner without hurting your allies. So who is this game for? Well, it's for players who like as little to as no luck in their games as possible and love to constantly survey their opponent's decisions. This player enjoys punishing others and learning from their mistakes, and thinking about the game for hours afterward. He or she wants an experience that is rewarding in its variety of different strategies they can employ, and they're always thinking about how to combine the various employee abilities. Food Chain Magnate, for this type of board gamer, is that heavy classic they will constantly play. But even if you like the theme a lot, this game might not be for you for a couple of reasons. If you get overwhelmed on having to calculate every single possible variable in the game, like food, distance, management, pricing, milestones, and everything else in the game, yeah, you gotta be careful about buying this. And you gotta be careful about the variable time length and turn downtime if those are a deal breaker for you. So here we gotta drop the big warning. In this game, players can get functionally removed for making mistakes early. And if you think games like Agricola are really punishing for someone blocking your space, Food Chain Magnate can be just as bad. You see your early game mistakes lead to your opponents getting all the money for the next couple of hours. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a business game and business can be really cutthroat. Oh yeah, and if you have a small table, good luck fitting everything in this game on it. We will end with this. Food Chain Magnate is funnily enough the exact opposite of actual fast food. FCM is like a fancy dinner that has been carefully designed with so many layers. The price tag is ridiculously high, but you'd be willing to pay it because the designers are just that top notch. While eating, you'll need a slow pace that really lets you chew through your decisions, cutting through the game at different angles to find new ways to outwit your opponents. But it is one hell of an expensive meal at $100 MSRP and constantly out of stock. And we can't really recommend buying FCM without trying it first to see if it fits you and your group. Now there's one expansion for this game called the Ketchup mechanism and other ideas. So yeah, as it says, it adds a new mechanic that helps losers catch up. It also adds a new set of milestones, new types of buildings, food, employees, and marketing types. Now we haven't tried this game, so we can't really analyze it, but at a first glance, it adds in kimchi, sushi, and noodles? In a 20th century America? I mean, come on, where's my McRib? Give me my McRib. Anyways, there's nothing in this base game that really needs fixing in terms of balance and replayability, so we've never felt that an expansion was necessary. The expansion also costs $140 MSRP, like, yikes. This costs $100 MSRP, so yeah, man, Splotter makes some expensive stuff.
Okay, so for what I would personally rate Food Chain Magnate, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's an above average experience for me. This is another one of those games where when I'm looking at it, I'm kind of just like, why is this even a board game? All, and I mean all, of Food Chain Magnate's experience is better represented digitally. Like, no more insane setup, way better clarity of information, automated dinner time and payday, and get this, an actually functioning restructuring stage. And then for my visual tastes, the aesthetics of the game, while simplistic and very cool, lends to it looking a little bland on the table. Like, at the very least, if a board game has no real reason being a board game, at least I should be able to fiddle around with the, I don't know, cool minis, pretty artwork, social mechanics, you know, like tangible IRL things, but that's just not really here for me in Food Chain Magnate. Don't get me wrong, I really like the thoughtfulness and depth that exists in this game's strategy, and it definitely feels like you're in control of what's going on at all times. But again, the clarity of information in this game is just muddy, and that really puts a hamper on my enjoyment of the strategy, which, you know, by the way, is a big selling point of this game, when everything takes twice as long to calculate thanks to a combination of a bunch of variables all having to be tracked in an analog medium. Other than that, I don't typically like open information games where the information horizon extends out super far. This is pretty much the reason why I don't find chess to be that fun, but Food Chain Magnate, on the other hand, definitely has a little more dynamism that makes counterplay a lot more fun to me. Like, that's what's super frustrating to me, is that, like, everything is here for an amazing game. I like the theme, I like how it manifests in the gameplay, but until I can feel like I'm actually playing Food Chain Magnate and not playing auditing components of the board game, it's gonna be a trudge to play this game.
My personal score for Food Chain Magnate is gonna be a 6 out of 10. Yeah, above average. Food Chain Magnate just completely blew me away though the first time I played it. As the years went on, this game just fell out of the spotlight because I didn't really want to spend all that effort to set it up, and I didn't really want such a tense night with my friends. But then, when testing FCM during quarantine, I was like, oh yeah, that's what this game is missing. A computer. See, online at Board Game Core, almost everything is automated, and I can see management trees and the reserve at the click of a button. So now it's the same game, made better with automation in a shorter amount of time. Yeah, I'm really starting to believe that I won't ever play this game in person again. So on this gameplay, I'm still constantly impressed on how well this game ramps up. But It's around like that maybe 1.5 to 2 hour mark. I feel like this game just drags on for me. And I always actually opt for $100 to put in the reserve to get the game done as soon as possible. Because looking at like that gigantic messy game state late in the night is just, it's not fun to calculate. I get the feeling that this game doesn't really tickle my fancy too much because it's so tense that it doesn't let me interact with my friends in a way I'd like. There's not really any hype moments about this game, and while the theme is so fun to laugh about, that laughing just kind of dies down as you get really engrossed in calculating, and it's just a very serious atmosphere. Also, just like Daniel, I don't really like perfect information in my games. But wow, the hiring and training mechanic in FCM is amazing. So if there's any game that's out there with that sort of mechanic, please let me know. Or if anyone wants to design a game that's like under 2 hours that has something like this feel, oh my god, I would buy that. Wait, we have patrons making this possible now. Oh my god, that's so awesome. Thank you guys. We have Max B, Clifford H, and Brian C making videos like this possible. If you guys, newcomers to the channel, want to join us, subscribe, and also check out our Patreon channel. Patreon program.
Hey, boss!